Good afternoon, guys. It's Workin, bringing you a quick update on Bitcoin and EOS. Hope you guys are having a wonderful afternoon. We're looking at Bitcoin to the US dollars, the 4-hour chart on Coinbase. And last time we spoke, guys, price was sitting right in this area. I told you guys more than likely we'd see price come back down for a retest of this zone. We saw that divergence just slightly on the MACD and the RSI. So I told you we might, before that retest, we might see price come back up, retest the top of this zone here, possibly retesting this zone here at about 64.50. That did not happen. In fact, this little, if I zoom in here, I told you also that this little wick right here may have been enough to clear that divergence, and it looks like it was. Obviously, price came back up just slightly, pushed back up to about 64.28, and then just ended up breaking right back down. So obviously, guys, I told you we were going to retest at least 63.60. Told you that 63.60 was a relevant zone. We have broken through that, and we have broken through decisively 63.60. That being said, we do have some support in that area. If we look at the bottom of this order structure right here, that coincides very nicely with the top of this order structure right here. So we are getting a little bit of support based on those two areas right in here, and we can see that support right here, this order block right back here. So we see price came back down, had a very nice rejection off this area here. However, it did not bounce strongly like we were hoping for. We were hoping to see price come back down, get a very nice bounce to push us right back above this 63.60 resistance, or excuse me, what was support should now act as resistance. And it looks like we just had this little push. It did get pushed right back down. So it is, as of now, acting as resistance, this 63.60 area. So we're going to be watching to see. We had a nice, if I go swing low, swing high, we did have a nice technical bounce. Let me get right on there. We did have a nice little technical bounce right off. You can see the wick touched very nicely off the 618 fib. That's that golden ratio, the 618 fib level. So that, you know, if this does hold, I do think this will be very significant. If 61, if 60, sorry guys, can't talk today. If the 618 fib level does hold, that's a very relevant zone. We do expect that, you know, I told you guys a couple days ago that we were, when price was up here, I told you we were due for a deeper correction. This is that deeper correction. The question is that all that is a deeper correction, a nice, healthy, deep correction as expected, or are we coming back down to retest these lows down here, possibly lower? I do think 618 fib level is always a good indication of either a healthy correction or a deeper, possibly unhealthy correction. And we're going to wait and see how this ends up holding up. If the 618 fib level, which sits at nicely at about 63.30, if 63.30 does hold, we can even accept it wicking through just slightly. We also have another little order block right down here. So we may see a wick just coming through just slightly, but I'd like to see at least the body of the 4-hour candle hold above the 618 fib. If that is the case, I'll consider this a healthy retrace. If not, we may be coming down to at least the 62.35. Now 62.35 should be a very strong support. Obviously, it's been strong support in the past. That's why we have it marked out here on the chart. But you know, we can see it was resistance here, came back down, acted as strong support here, and we can also see the 8865 fib level does coincide almost perfectly and within a couple dollars of that 62.35 support. So this would act as a strong support. If 62.35 does break down, I'm going to start to get very, very concerned. So again, two levels that we're watching: the 618 fib, which sits at about 63.30, and 62.35, which is the 8865 fib level. I'm going to start to get concerned if 618 fib does break down. I'm going to get very concerned if the 62.35 does break down. Now let's come over here and let's look at our long and short positions. Shorts continue to fall off the board. That's actually not a bad sign. It's actually a sign of a healthier market. Even if price does come back down, guys, that doesn't mean the market is unhealthy. So this is a good sign that people are not chasing price. In other words, as I've told you guys many times in the past, typically when price falls off the board, you'll see retail investors chase price. So price falls off the board, longs drop, and shorts start to stack. Okay, that's chasing the price. You know, the opposite would also be true. If price was going up, you'd see longs start to rise and shorts start to fall off the board. Excuse me. You don't want to see a major reaction either way. So the fact that shorts are not stacking right now tells me that this may again be a nice healthy correction. Let's wait and see how this kind of ends up playing out, guys, but this may be a healthy correction. We can see that longs predictably are falling off the board, but they're not just, I mean, they're not, or I shouldn't say falling off the board. Longs are being reduced as those stop losses are hit, but it's not drastic as of now. In other words, more than likely, everyone that entered their long positions down here, more than likely to protect those long positions, increased their stop losses to somewhere a logical area would be 63.60, somewhere between 63.30 and 63.60. So we're seeing people that are taking their profits more than likely and have increased their stop losses. In other words, these are a lot. Some of these may be people that bought right here. That's possible, and now they're triggering their stop losses. But I have to believe a lot of them, more than likely, are people that entered down here and were triggering their stop losses. So we'll have to wait and see kind of how that plays out, guys. But again, I'm not calling this an unhealthy correction. This still looks healthy as of now. The one thing, though, that I'm a little bit concerned with, excuse me, guys, let me drink water. All right, guys, I'm back. Had to pause the video there real quick. So yeah, one of the things, as I was saying, one of the things that I'm a little bit concerned with here is if we come over here and we look at the daily chart, we check our EMAs and moving averages, we can see that price came up, hit the top of the Bollinger Bands, strong rejection, price came back down. I told you yesterday that as long as price stays above the 21-day EMA, that's going to be, that's a healthy sign. But when price drops below the 21-day EMA, that's when you start to get concerned. You start to think that the momentum is shifting back in favor of the bulls, in favor of the bears. Just like when price rose above, was below and rose above the 21-day EMA decisively, that showed momentum shift in favor of the bulls, and we can see that we had 5 days of a nice rise. The opposite is also true. If we have this daily candle, and I want to emphasize, the daily candle has not closed yet, so this could turn into just a wick, just a nice strong wick where the bulls push it right back up. But if this daily candle does close today below the 21-day EMA, that is, history tells us that is a good sign that momentum, at least in the short term, I don't want to spread any FUD at all. This doesn't mean anything long term, but in the short term, that could indicate lower prices to come. We could be coming down, possibly bouncing off this the lower Bollinger Band here on the daily, which would bring us right down to our support, right around 62.35-ish. Somewhere in that area, guys, we might get that nice bounce. So we'll have to wait and see kind of how this plays out. But this is a little bit concerning that we have broken down below that 21-day EMA on the daily chart. And we're just going to have to wait and watch and see if we can hold the 618 fib level right here, which is at about 63.30, guys. We'll have to watch and wait, see if that does hold. As far as entering any kind of positions, we are still, again, as I continue to tell you guys, we are still trading within a range. And until we do break that range, there's no reason to go in heavy. Until we do break that range, there's no reason to think that this thing is going to explode. Now we do have that logarithmic chart that I showed you guys the other day. In fact, let me see if I can pull it back up here. This is on Bitstamp. Here we go, guys. I just paused the video so I can get out here to save some time. So yeah, this is the logarithmic chart, and this showed you. I showed you this the other day. This shows you that this would indicate the possibility, if this support holds, and this has been in place. This is the monthly chart, by the way. This is the logarithmic scale monthly chart that goes all the way back to the end of 2011. We are approaching that area now, so that we would expect a decent bounce if history is any guide, and if this support is to hold. That being said, if I zoom in here, that does not mean we can't come back down and possibly test these prior lows down here around 5,900, 5,800. We could still see price drop straight down, get a nice bounce off that zone as it has many times in the past here, and then bounce from there. So again, I want to keep things into perspective. This logarithmic chart does show the possibility of a nice bounce. In fact, I would say even a slight probability of a nice bounce by the end of November. But that does not mean price can't come back down and retest these 2018 lows. And if they do that, and if price does break this trend line on the logarithmic scale, we could be coming down to much lower prices. But until that is broken decisively, not by a wick, but decisively broken, until that happens, guys, we have to, probability is in favor by the end of the month of a nice little bounce. But that, again, does not mean in the short term we can't come down to much lower prices. So I'm going to go ahead and get off logarithmic scale, get back to our chart. So we're going to just watch this, guys, as I said, and wait and see how this ends up playing out. I would not be entering any kind of a position at all at this moment, in my opinion. Not financial advice at all, guys. Just personally giving you my my own opinion. I would wait and see how price reacts. If you are looking to enter a position, it may be down here, 62.35, looking for a nice bounce off that area. I would just have a very tight stop loss if that does end up happening, guys. And yes, could you enter a position right now expecting a nice bounce off the 618 fib? Maybe a small one. Yeah, maybe a small one, guys. That's certainly a possibility if you're feeling, but I would not be entering any kind of a big position at all. And of course, as I said, I would have a very, very tight stop loss, possibly putting it right below this, we call this the golden pocket, which is between the 618 fib and the 65 fib level right here. That's called the golden pocket, guys. I would put that stop loss right below that 618 fib, which sits at about 63.10, somewhere thereabouts, guys. Go nice little wick through there. That's a possibility, and then coming right back up. But all eyes are watching the 618 fib and 62.35. All right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap Bitcoin, come over here and looking at EOS. This is EOS to the US dollar 4-hour chart on Bitfinex. And EOS, this was almost predictable, guys. In fact, I tried to, before this broke down, I was trying to get you guys an update out yesterday, and I just didn't have enough time to do it. But we had this nice, I shouldn't say nice, we had this bearish looking ascending broadening wedge that we had here, guys. This typically does end up breaking down. And if this does come to fruition, in other words, the target of a wedge like this typically is the bottom of the wedge. So typically would be right in here. That would be the target. Doesn't always get there, guys, at all. But this would be the target of that wedge if this was that nice ascending wedge that it kind of looks like it may be. As of right now, though, guys, we did see price come back down. Excuse me, guys. I keep getting this thing caught right in my throat. It came right down to the top of this wick right here. Didn't quite hit our order block down here, but I do think there's a good chance that it does come down into this, at least this order block right in here, which would be at about 63.30, somewhere in that neighborhood. If we pull our fib and we go swing low, swing high of this entire structure, we can see that would coincide almost coincide nicely with the 618 fib, certainly with that golden pocket, which sits at the 65 fib level. So again, suggesting that price may come back down, get a nice bounce off that 618 fib, and then impulse right back up from there. We're just gonna have to watch and wait and see how it reacts to that. If you are, again, wanting to enter into a position in EOS, this isn't a bad idea to look for a bounce in this area. Maybe look at entering a very small position right here with a very tight stop loss, but it is risky, guys. I think there's a good chance that we are going to that would break down and we come down to at least 526 and possibly completing this overall bearish rising wedge or broadening wedge, rising broadening wedge pattern, which again usually ends up with a target right down in here, and that would be sitting at about 510-ish, somewhere thereabouts, guys. Very close to the 8865 fib level, and we were also watching that 8865 fib level on Bitcoin. Very similarly, we'd be watching this 8865 fib level on EOS. So again, watching those two major fib levels, the 618 and the 8865, and we do have a nice support in the middle to possibly end that bleeding if it does end up breaking down below the 618. But if it does break below 618, guys, that's 5.62 support, guys, I think likely would give way to the overall target of this ascending broadening wedge. Coming out and looking at our short positions are falling off the board and have been for a long time. This really hasn't had much of an impact on that at all. They continue to fall off the board for EOS. We come over here and we look at our long positions. Long positions, interestingly enough, of course, they have been falling here, but here recently they just started ticking back up here just in the last 2 hours or so. We just had this little push back up. Now, of course, that's not significant at all unless it continues. So I'm going to watch this to see. But I do think that this is, again, a positive sign. Why is that a positive sign? It's a positive sign because, of course, price is falling off the board. And what are people doing? Retail investors are looking for a good entry point. So instead of just blindly following price, you would expect shorts to stack as price falls and longs as price falls to fall off the board. We're seeing shorts continue to fall off the board even as price falls, and we're seeing a little bounce on longs. So in other words, retail investors are looking at a discounted price. They saw this overall uptrend. They anticipated that we would get a correction, and they were looking for a re-entry point. More than likely, looking at this area right in here, a little uptick. They probably started laddering in buy orders at the top of our our order block, which is right in here. And of course, we got that nice little wedge. That does signify that they did start to add in, ladder in buy orders, and more than likely they ladder in from here all the way down to here. So I'll be interested to see if price does continue down, come into this area, if those longs do continue to stack. If they do, I think that's going to be a very healthy sign. Again, doesn't mean that that means price is going to reverse. It just means the market is getting healthier, and it also means that very likely we're going to continue to trade within a tighter and tighter range. That being said, guys, always keep in mind volume. And right now, again, volume on Bitcoin is 4.5 billion. Volume on EOS is 7,725 million. Oh, it's very, very low, and it's very ripe for manipulation. So you always want to keep that in mind, guys. This market is still ripe for high manipulation, and it can be manipulated very, very easily. Now, looking at the our 4-hour indicators, we can see on the MACD and the RSI, if we go point to point on price, the price created a higher low. If we look at the same exact point, we can see that price created a lower low. Obviously, this being an overall uptrend, a correction from an overall uptrend, so that would be hidden bullish divergence. That being said, we saw something similar again yesterday with Bitcoin. We had this nice little wick right here that pushed price back up, and that may have been enough to clear that divergence, guys. So, well, yes, I know a lot of people are showing this this positive divergence, positive hidden divergence. I do think that this little wick right here may have cleared that. In other words, I do think that we still may get price coming back down and retesting this, at least that 618 fib level, as I said, guys, which sits at about 530, 535, somewhere in that area. And of course, if that does break down, we're going to be coming much lower, at least to 526, but possibly even lower than that, down to this order block down here at about 510-ish, somewhere in that area, guys. The RSI of the 4-hour, I do still think has a lot of room to correct. We may be coming down to, if once it gets to over, I don't expect it to get, once it gets to oversold areas, then at that point I will be looking for a nice bounce. That also might be a decent buy signal if we get to that oversold area on the 4-hour RSI. But right now, still room to drop, and it still may drop. Again, so all eyes still watching, just like in Bitcoin, all eyes watching that 618 fib level, pardon me, and that 8865 fib level right here, the 618 fib and the golden pocket, you know, between the 618 and the 65 fib level, and all the way down here at this order block here, which sits at about 8865. That would be the target of that larger ascending broadening wedge, and that would also be a decent area if we look at our fib level hitting right off the 8865, be a nice deep correction. But we also know that EOS is known for those deep corrections. So we'll have to watch and wait, guys, and see how that reacts. Again, if you're looking at entering position, guys, I would just go very, very light with a very tight stop. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it there. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, I would appreciate an upvote if you have enjoyed this content. Until next time, guys, please trade safe, take care of yourselves. This is Workin, signing out.